You're listening to Inside Insight, the podcast that dives into the latest innovations and strategies in manufacturing, distribution, and Dynamics 365 Business Central. Brought to you by InsightWorks, this show features our hosts, Ryan and Emma, as they bring you expert conversations, industry insights, and practical advice to help you stay ahead in this constantly evolving world.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another deep dive with us? Today, we're tackling warehouse management using Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central.
A very important area for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, it is. And we've got a great resource to guide us. It's a white paper from InsightWorks that really gets into the practical side of optimizing warehouse operations.
It's a good one. They really cut through the noise and focus on what matters.
Absolutely. So one of the first things they jump into is the two main approaches Business Central offers for warehouse management, basic and advanced.
Right. And it's not about which one is better, really.
Right.
It's about choosing the right fit for your specific needs.
I like how they put it in the white paper. It's like assessing your toolkit for a job.
Exactly. You wouldn't use a hammer for every task, right?
Definitely not.
So for simpler inventory needs, the basic setup in Business Central might be perfect. Think, straightforward receiving, picking, and shipping.
Makes sense. So when does it make sense to step up to those advanced features?
Well, when your operation demands more precision and control, like imagine multiple warehouses, complex picking strategies, or very specific storage requirements. That's where those advanced features like directed put away and pick come into play.
Okay, I'm already intrigued. Let's break down directed put away and pick. What does it actually mean in practice?
Well, think of it this way. It's all about taking the guesswork out of where things go in your warehouse. With directed put away, the system tells your team exactly where to store incoming goods based on predefined rules.
Okay.
And then when it's time to pick those items for an order, directed pick guides them to the right location using the most efficient route.
So instead of relying on memory or intuition,
Right.
the system is actually optimizing every step of the process.
Exactly. And the white paper goes beyond just explaining these features. It digs into the strategic thinking behind setting them up. And one example that stood out was the emphasis on defining locations effectively.
Now, I can see how that would be crucial. What kind of strategic decisions do you have to make around locations?
Well, it starts with understanding what a location actually represents in Business Central. It's not just your physical warehouse. It could be a specific zone within that warehouse, a separate storage area, or even like a virtual location for tracking goods in transit.
Oh, okay.
So thinking through these locations strategically with clear naming conventions is essential for a smooth setup.
Makes sense. And then within those locations, you have bins, right? Those are the individual spots where items are stored. And the white paper stresses bin management, too.
Oh, absolutely. Bins are the building blocks of your warehouse layout within Business Central. So whether you make bins mandatory or optional depends on how granular you need your tracking to be.
Right.
So if you need to know exactly where each item is at all times, then mandatory bins are the way to go.
Makes sense. But the white paper also cautions against overcomplicating things.
Right.
So it's about finding the right balance for your operation.
Right. Exactly. If your setup's relatively simple and you don't need that level of detail, then optional bins might be enough. The white paper gives a great example. If you have dedicated areas for things like quality control or staging, you can set up special purpose bins to reflect those zones within the system.
So you're essentially mirroring your physical workflow in Business Central.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, before we move on, there's one concept I want to clarify for our listeners. The difference between inventory and warehouse documents. The white paper touches on this, but I think it would be helpful to unpack it a bit further.
It's a great point, and it's a fundamental concept that can trip people up. So think of inventory documents as the tools for handling like single stage processes.
Okay.
You're moving items within the warehouse, but it's all happening in one step.
Okay, so like receiving goods and putting them away immediately.
Exactly. Warehouse documents, on the other hand, support those multi-stage processes where you might have a delay between steps.
Got it.
So think picking items for an order and then packing and shipping them later.
Okay, so you're adding a layer of control and traceability.
Exactly.
So choosing the right document type really depends on how complex your workflows are.
It's all about matching the tool to the task. And mapping out your warehouse processes in advance can help you make that choice. Do you need to consolidate orders? Split tasks between teams? Having that clarity up front makes a big difference in setting up Business Central effectively.
Now, the white paper doesn't shy away from the realities of using Business Central. It acknowledges that, while powerful, there are some limitations and potential challenges to be aware of.
Right. It's very upfront about where Business Central's built-in features might fall short, especially for more complex warehousing needs.
And one of the first things they point out is the potential complexity of setting up those advanced features we talked about. It's not always just plug and play.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Features like directed put away and pick, while incredibly powerful, require a deep understanding of how they interact with locations, bins, and all those settings we talked about earlier.
It sounds like misconfiguration could lead to some serious headaches in the warehouse.
It absolutely can. The white paper doesn't sugarcoat it. If you get those settings wrong, you could end up with inefficiencies, errors, and a lot of frustration for your team.
So proper training and understanding of the system are crucial. Now, another potential challenge the white paper highlights is the reliance on manual processes for certain tasks in Business Central. What are some of the key areas where businesses might encounter this?
Well, tasks like inventory counts, pick creation, and even shipment tracking often involve manual steps in the standard Business Central setup. You might have team members manually entering data, printing paperwork, and reconciling information.
And I can see how that would become a major bottleneck as a business grows.
Absolutely. Those manual processes introduce the potential for errors, slow down operations, and make it difficult to scale efficiently. The white paper uses a great analogy. It's like trying to run a marathon with weights strapped to your ankles. You might be able to make it work for a short distance, but it's not sustainable in the long run.
Speaking of scaling, that's another area where the white paper points out potential limitations with Business Central. As businesses grow and operations become more complex, the system might struggle to keep up.
Right. Managing inventory across multiple locations, dealing with intricate workflows, and handling increasing volumes of data can all put a strain on Business Central's native capabilities.
And the white paper gives some specific examples of how this might manifest in the real world.
They talk about how businesses can run into issues with data silos. Information gets trapped in different parts of the system, making it difficult to get a clear, unified view of inventory across all locations. And this lack of visibility can lead to poor decision-making, stockouts, and inefficiencies.
It's like having pieces of a puzzle scattered around, making it impossible to see the complete picture. And that lack of visibility extends beyond just inventory levels, right? The white paper also mentions limitations in gaining real-time insights into warehouse operations.
Exactly. Business Central's standard reporting might not provide the granular detail needed to track warehouse movements, monitor performance, or identify bottlenecks as they occur. You're left reacting to problems rather than proactively addressing them.
It's like driving a car without a speedometer. You're moving, but you have no idea how fast you're going, or if you're even on the right track. And to add to these challenges, the white paper points out the limitations in Business Central's native support for essential warehouse hardware, like barcode scanners and mobile devices.
That's a big one. In today's world, warehouses rely heavily on these technologies to streamline processes and capture data in real time. But Business Central might require customization or workarounds to integrate seamlessly with these tools.
So you might end up with a disconnect between the physical reality of your warehouse and what's reflected in the system. That can lead to all sorts of confusion and errors.
And the white paper is very clear on this point. You might need to rely on third-party apps or even custom development to achieve the level of integration and automation you need for a truly efficient warehouse.
So we've identified some pretty significant potential challenges with relying solely on Business Central's built-in capabilities. But don't worry, we're not leaving you hanging. The white paper goes on to introduce some powerful solutions that can address these limitations head-on.
That's where InsightWorks comes in. They offer a suite of apps specifically designed to extend Business Central's functionality and bridge those gaps we've been discussing.
We talked about how Business Central might need some help when it comes to seamless integration with things like barcode scanners and mobile devices. And InsightWorks has an app that tackles this directly, Warehouse Insight.
It's a game changer for businesses that really want to bring that real-time data capture and mobility to their warehouse operations. Instead of relying on those, manual processes and paper trails, you can actually empower your team with handheld scanners and mobile devices.
And it's not just about the scanning, right? It's how that data interacts with Business Central in real time.
Exactly. Warehouse Insight connects directly to your Business Central database, so every scan is updating the system instantly. This means you have accurate, up-to-the-minute information on your inventory levels, locations, and movements.
That level of visibility must be incredibly valuable for making informed decisions and preventing those costly errors.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you give us an example of how Warehouse Insight might be used in a real-world scenario?
Absolutely. Imagine your receiving team is unloading a shipment of goods. Okay, so with Warehouse Insight, they can scan each item as it's received, capturing its details and updating the inventory in Business Central right then and there. And the system can then guide them on where to put away those items, optimizing, storage space and minimizing handling time.
So it's like having a digital assistant guiding every step of the process. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
Now, we talked earlier about how those manual inventory counts can be such a major bottleneck for businesses. And I know InsightWorks has a solution for that as well, advanced inventory count. What makes this app stand out?
Well, Advanced Inventory Count streamlines the often tedious and error-prone process of counting inventory. It moves away from those cumbersome paper-based methods and introduces mobile scanning and real-time data validation.
Okay, so instead of manually writing down counts and then entering them into the system later, you can capture everything electronically as you go.
Precisely. And this eliminates a huge source of potential errors, and it speeds up the counting process significantly. Plus, Advanced Inventory Count allows multiple users to count simultaneously, making it ideal for large warehouses or those, periodic full inventory counts.
That's great. You can divide and conquer that big task. All right, let's move on to an app with a name that really intrigued me, license plating. I have to admit, when I first heard it, I didn't quite grasp what it meant in the context of warehouse management.
It's a term borrowed from the logistics world. Think of it this way. Instead of tracking every single item individually, you group them together and assign a single unique identifier to the entire group, the license plate number, or LPN for short.
Ah, okay. So it's like giving a whole pallet of goods one barcode instead of scanning each individual item. I could see how that would save a lot of time and effort.
Exactly. It simplifies tracking and movement significantly, especially when you're dealing with large quantities of similar items. And when you combine it with Warehouse Insight, license plating becomes even more powerful.
Oh, how so?
Let's go back to our receiving example. Okay, imagine a pallet arrives with dozens of boxes on it. Instead of scanning each box individually, the team can scan the LPN on that pallet. Warehouse Insight recognizes that LPN, and boom, it instantly updates the system with the details of all the items on that pallet.
Wow, that's incredible. That really simplifies receiving, put away, and ultimately picking as well.
Exactly.
Now, no discussion of warehouse management would be complete without addressing shipping. And that's where Dynamic Ship, another InsightWorks app, comes into play. What are some of its key benefits?
Well, Dynamic Ship tackles the complexities of shipping directly within Business Central. It streamlines everything from rate shopping and label printing to generating shipping documents and tracking shipments.
Okay, so instead of juggling multiple systems and websites, everything is consolidated within a single platform.
It is, and it's so efficient. Imagine this, you've just finished packing an order. Okay. With Dynamic Ship, you can compare rates from multiple carriers in real time, choose the best option, print the shipping label, and generate all the necessary documentation, all within Business Central.
That streamlines the entire workflow, eliminates a lot of manual steps and potential for errors. Plus, I imagine having that real-time tracking information readily available is a huge plus, both for the business and for keeping customers informed.
Absolutely. Dynamic Ship provides that end-to-end visibility, from the moment a shipment leaves your warehouse to the moment it reaches its destination.
It's like having a command center for your shipping operations all within Business Central.
Exactly. And the beauty of these InsightWorks apps is that they're not just standalone solutions. They work together seamlessly. They create a truly integrated warehouse management ecosystem within Business Central.
So you're not just patching holes, you're building a more robust and efficient system overall.
Precisely.
We've explored some powerful selections from InsightWorks, but as with any tool, the key is using them effectively, right?
Absolutely. Implementing new technology in a warehouse isn't just about flipping a switch. And the white paper we've been discussing really emphasizes the importance of strategic thinking and best practices.
One of the points that stuck with me was that caution against blindly enabling advanced features. It's about finding that sweet spot between complexity and practicality.
Yeah, I think the analogy of choosing the right tool for the job really applies here. Take directed put away and pick, for example. It can revolutionize efficiency in a large, complex warehouse with very specific storage needs.
Right.
But in a smaller operation, it might just add unnecessary complexity.
So it's about understanding the nuances of your own warehouse and choosing features that truly align with your workflows and your goals.
The white paper provides some really helpful guidance for making those decisions. It prompts you to consider things like, the volume of transactions, the variety of inventory you handle, and even the physical layout of your warehouse.
So it's a process of careful evaluation, not just jumping in because a feature sounds cool or trendy.
Right. And this principle applies to other areas of warehouse setup within Business Central, like bin management.
Right. We talked about how bins can be mandatory or optional. How do you determine the right level of granularity for your operation?
It really comes down to your specific needs for tracking and visibility. If you handle items with strict lot or serial number tracking requirements, you might need the precision of mandatory bins. But if your inventory is more homogeneous and you primarily need to know which location an item is in, optional bins might be sufficient.
The white paper also highlights the role of a Microsoft partner in helping businesses make these strategic decisions.
Absolutely. Having that expert guide you through the implementation process can be invaluable. They can help you configure the system correctly, avoid common pitfalls, and just ensure a smooth transition to those new solutions.
Now let's shift our focus to another crucial element of successful warehouse management: empowering your team. The white paper stresses the importance of proper onboarding and training, especially when introducing new technology like mobile devices and barcode scanners.
That's a critical point. You can invest in the best tools in the world, but if your team isn't comfortable using them effectively, you won't reap the full benefits. And InsightWorks understands this, and they offer tailored training programs to address this.
So it's not just generic training. It's specific to the roles and responsibilities within the warehouse.
Exactly. They have training designed for pickers, packers, supervisors, everyone who will be interacting with the new system and technologies. This ensures that everyone understands how their role fits into that overall warehouse ecosystem.
It's about creating a culture of competence and confidence around those new tools.
Exactly. And that leads to greater efficiency, accuracy, and just overall job satisfaction. And the white paper shares some really compelling examples of how businesses have transformed their warehouse operations by embracing these mobile devices and barcode scanning.
What are some of the standout examples?
Well, they talk about how pickers equipped with those handheld scanners could navigate the warehouse with ease. Receiving picking instructions and confirming picks in real time. It eliminates the need for those paper pick lists and significantly reduces the risk of errors.
It's about streamlining those core processes and removing those manual steps that can really bog things down.
And this technology benefits everyone in the warehouse. Supervisors, for instance, can use mobile devices to monitor inventory levels, track shipments, and identify potential bottlenecks as they occur. It creates a much more responsive and data-driven environment.
It's about moving away from reactive problem solving to that proactive management.
And the key takeaway here is that maximizing warehouse efficiency is a multifaceted journey. It involves choosing the right tools, configuring them correctly, empowering your team, and just fostering a culture of continuous improvement.
So for our listeners who are eager to start optimizing their own warehouse operations, what are some practical first steps they can take?
Well, I would say start by taking an honest assessment of your current processes. Where are the bottlenecks? Where are you losing time or accuracy? Once you've identified those pain points, you can start exploring the solutions offered by InsightWorks.
And engaging a Microsoft partner to guide you through the process is always a wise investment.
Oh, absolutely. They can help you navigate those complexities of Business Central, choose the right InsightWorks apps for your needs, and ensure a smooth and successful implementation.
Awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive into the world of warehouse management with Business Central. We've uncovered the challenges, explored the solutions, and I hope our listeners feel equipped to start optimizing their own operations. Thanks for joining us.